everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I am bringing you another series first impressions video. This video is going to feature two more haunting type books. It is Halloween, so I thought today would be the perfect opportunity to bring you my thoughts on these two series as well as the first books in these series. So the first series I'm going to talk about is The Supernaturals by David L. Golemon, and this is the first book in the Supernatural series. The second book I'm going to talk to you about is The Spirit Hunters, which is the first book in the Spirit Hunters series by Ellen O. I read that one on Kindle Unlimited, so I don't have a copy to show you, but when I start talking about the book, I will put up a picture for you to see what the cover looks like. So, let's talk about the Supernaturals. Like I said, this is the first book in the Supernatural series. Funnily enough, about the two books that I'm talking to you about in this video, both of these books I thought were standalone books. I did not know that they were part of a series. This particular book has been on my to-read list for a couple of years. And The Spirit Hunters has also been on my Kindle Unlimited shelf for a couple of years. And I don't believe when I put them on there that Goodreads had said that they were parts of series. You know how like on Goodreads next to the title it'll say in parentheses the name of the series? Both of these books didn't have that at the time that I had added them to my want to read shelf. This one, I don't think it does still. I'm not certain, but I had found out that this particular one was the start of a series when I went to go see if there was an audiobook available at my library for it. And they did have one, and it said book 1 of 2. And I was like, what? And that's when I found out that this is actually part of a duology. So the Supernaturals, if I had to describe this book in just a few words, I would say it would be Rose Red meets The Haunting meets Ghost Hunters. If you're familiar with any of those TV shows or movies, that's kind of the feel I get from this book, though it's not like completely of those three. So this professor, I believe his name is Professor Kennedy, takes a group of people, all of whom have different types of abilities, into this place called Summer Place to study its like paranormal events that people have talked about. And while he is in there studying, something happens and he loses one of the members in his party. People don't believe what he said happened, and his reputation gets ruined, along with the reputations of all of the people that he had with him. The underlying thought is that he had actually murdered the person, and was using the house as an excuse. So fast forward years later, there's this TV show that's very much like Ghost Hunters, where they go into places and they do like investigations to see if there's any paranormal activity. And they are going to have this big Halloween special and want to investigate Summer Place. This place obviously has much talk about it. Lots of people know about what happened there years ago. And so for their big Halloween extravaganza, they want to go in and do their own investigation and televise it live for their audience to see. So the TV network that's associated with this TV show agrees to go ahead with this production, even though it's going to cost a lot of money, and there's kind of a not so great feel about doing this because they think they're going to lose a lot of money, let alone viewership. But they decide to go ahead and give it a chance, and they kind of stipulate that they have to use the newscaster who broke the story about the events that happened years ago on their news channel as part of their crew, as well as use the professor as part of their crew to do the show, because they think having the professor is going to draw people in. And so this book follows that whole journey about putting this TV show together and investigating the place and all of the events leading up to that. As you can see, this book is pretty chunky. It comes in at 482 pages, and I was really drawn in the beginning because we start off with the first investigation where Professor Kennedy is in there with his team, and it just felt so much like a Rose Red situation to me. Rose Red is probably my most favorite Stephen King miniseries. That and The Stand, I believe, are the two that I have watched the most. But Rose Red, there was something about it that really interested me, and it's something that keeps me interested year after year. And so when I read the opening to this book, I was really, really into it. It like sucked me in right away, and then it fell off kind of quickly. This book has a lot of the TV station politics involved in it. Not only that, there is a lot from points of view of a particular character who's the sheriff of the town where Summer Place is at, and he was actually the one that came to investigate when Professor Kennedy had lost the member of his group in the house, and he totally thinks that Professor Kennedy killed this person and is trying to cover it up. So he's like really on board with this. He wants everything to go through. He thinks now's his opportunity to get Professor Kennedy, and his points of view in this book, his tone is just really not nice. I mean, he's really upset that he couldn't get the professor at that time, and just like everything from him is like negative. He doesn't believe anything, and I get having that type of character in this book where you have someone or multiple people who don't believe the events that had happened, or things that were being said that happened in this place actually could happen. So that brought it down for me. Like I said, there was a lot of TV station politics in this. There's a lot of the host of the TV show and the newscaster talking with the TV executives about how they're going to go about this show, and some like speed bumps that they encounter along the way, and that is a majority of what this book entails. I really think that if they had cut back on a lot of that, this book would have moved a lot faster for me and would have been more interesting. That being said, towards the end of this book, we actually finally get to go back into Summer Place, and the investigation starts with the TV show and all of that, and that's when things start really picking up for me. It started being the book that I really wanted it to be, and I ended up really enjoying that part. Enough that all the parts that I thought were draggy about the TV politics and all of that were kind of forgotten when I had finished this. I had actually listened to a majority of this on audiobook. Like I said, I had gone to my library to check to see if they had an audio because I was going on a road trip. And so on the way back from my road trip was when I had finished up this book, and just so much stuff was happening, and being in the car, and you know, when you're in the car with other people, it's not quiet. And while I do have okay headphones, they're not noise canceling, but it just wasn't enough for me to fully appreciate what was going on. I got a gist of what had happened, and I was like, the first thing I'm going to do when I get back home is reread that entire end portion. And I did, and it was really great, and I really ended up enjoying this book. At the beginning of this book, there is an author's note, and it tells you that Summer Place is an actual place. Obviously, they're hiding the name and the location of this place, but it is a place that exists. And so, knowing that going into this book, I think gave the right tone to go into it as a reader. And again, like how Rose Red was kind of based on the Winchester Mystery House, that same kind of feeling is the feeling that I had while I was reading this. So I'm really interested to see if I can find out more about Summer Place, though like the author's note says, they're hiding the name and the location of this place. But it's fascinating. So with how this story wrapped up, I am really interested to see how the second book in this duology goes, and I believe it's only a duology because I believe it's been a few years since that book was published. But they kind of give a hint at the end of this book as to what the next investigation is going to be, so I believe that is what we're going to be following in the next book. But I'm really interested to see what I think of that one, because I think it's going to move a lot faster because we already know about all of these characters. They didn't need to be introduced to us. We didn't know how they were related to the whole situation. And yeah, I think it'll move faster. I think it'll be more of the type of thing that I'm looking for, because I do really enjoy haunted house mysteries. So I really enjoyed this one. We'll definitely be reading the next one. And so after that, I finally decided to go ahead and pick up The Spirit Hunters, which, like I said, is by Ellen O. and is the first book in the Spirit Hunters series. This is a middle grade horror. I don't know if you can call middle grade horror, but it's a middle grade spooky book. And this one follows Harper. She is the middle child of 3 children in her family. She's also Korean? I'm not sure if she's full Korean or half Korean, but she's at least part Korean. But it follows her family as they move to this new town, into this new house. And Harper has not had the best luck in her life. It seems that she's rather prone to accidents. And in fact, the reason that they have moved to this new town, into this new house, is because something very traumatic had happened to Harper at her last school, so much so that Harper got seriously injured and has no memory of what happened. And, you know, that kind of may be a good thing because of the severity of injury that she had sustained due to what happened. She's okay with not remembering. But as they start settling into this new house, Harper doesn't feel great about it. She notices that there are cool spots in the house, and her room is like scorching. Her brother starts acting weird, and so she decides to go out and just take a look at the neighborhood, get some fresh air, because she just doesn't feel great in the house. So then she meets her first friend in this new town, and the friend asks her where she's living, and Harper tells her. And the friend tells her, "Your house is haunted." And Harper's like, "What?" So Harper kind of doesn't believe her, but the friend tells her more about why, the town thinks the house is haunted. It's had several residents. They don't stay there very long, this, that, and the other thing. And so, Harper, as the days go by, starts to strengthen this relationship with this new friend that she's made, but she's also noticing that her brother's behavior is getting stranger and stranger, and there are things happening that she just can't explain. So as her brother's attitude changes and he just gets really different than how he used to be, she decides to go ahead and research the house and see if there is anything that she can do to try to get her brother back to where he used to be, to who he used to be. So, like I said, I have had this book on my Kindle Unlimited shelf for a while. I think I had put it there last year, and that tells you how often I read my Kindle Unlimited books, which this year I was doing really great on my Kindle Unlimited reading until we got into a lockdown, and then my Kindle Unlimited reading went right out the window, along with most of my reading, to be honest. But I decided, I always kind of gather up all of these titles of spookier books that I want to read in October. And then when October comes, I'm just either not in the mood to read, I'm too stressed out to read, I have other things that I want to read, shiny things have come out that really interested me, and then I just never read any of these books that I say, okay, I'm saving these for October. So I finally decided to go ahead and read The Spirit Hunters, and something happens in the very beginning of this book that really made me have to put it down for a while. Like I had said, Harper and her family are part Korean, if not full Korean. I'm still not clear about that. But I was listening to it on audio, and Harper has this run-in with a woman, an older woman, in a grocery store, and the older woman is acting very racist towards her. I believe Harper is 11 or 12 in this book, and the things that the woman was saying to Harper were things that I have been asked, things that I have heard directed towards me, and I couldn't deal with that. Like, there's a reason why I don't read more contemporary type novels, and it's because I don't want to encounter things like these. It really put me off reading this, having to experience that situation with her, because it made me angry, and I didn't want to be angry, so I had to put it away. And so after I got over my anger about that scene and my irritation about what had happened, I was able to go back to the book. And once Harper started researching the house and talking to her friend about it and learning all of these things, I got much more interested in the story, and I ended up really enjoying it. Now, I don't read a lot of middle grade books, and that's partially because I'm so far away from being the target audience by now that I don't connect with these stories a lot of the time. Plus, my daughter is pretty far away from that age range now also, so I don't really have someone in my life to be able to compare notes with, like give them that book to read and have them tell me what they think of it. As an adult reading this book, it was very easy to read, and while I get that it's written more towards a middle grade aged person, I still really enjoyed how Harper went about her investigation. I still really enjoyed how Harper tried to get her parents' attention about this, and how she took matters into her own hands when she couldn't get the help that she needed, and basically figured out everything for herself. I really, really enjoyed that. I should probably also mention that something else that bothered me about this is the fact that, like I said, Harper is the middle child of 3, and I am the oldest of 3. So, we both have siblings, and Harper notices like a difference in the way her mom treats her. And the mom character, the way she was written, I really, really got irritated with her. You could definitely see that the mom had different feelings towards Harper than she did towards her other 2 children, especially in the way she handled things. And it was only when Harper got injured when the mother seemed to really truly show how much she cared about Harper. So that bothered me quite a bit. But other than that, like I said, I really enjoyed how Harper investigated the house and find out information about the previous occupants and what had happened there, and how she kind of takes matters into her own hands. At the same time, brings her family together. So, yeah, I will probably be reading the next one in that series. It's not high up on my want radar, I guess, as much as the second book in the Supernatural series, just because this one is definitely more my style of story, and it is more of a, like an older adult, I guess you would say. There's nothing sexual in these books, but it's definitely more gruesome in the content, and so this is more my type of thing. But when I feel like picking up a middle grade book, I'll definitely be looking into the second book in the Spirit Hunters. I do have another series by Ellen O on my shelf, which I believe is a young adult fantasy, if I'm not mistaken. So I'd definitely be interested to see what she has to bring for a young adult audience. But yeah, I definitely recommend either of these books if you're interested in something a little more haunting for the season. If you have any recommendations for haunted house books, please let me know down in the comments below. My only parameter on that is that it is a haunted house book that was written in the last 30 years. I don't want anything that is more like a classic. I have already been recommended House of Leaves by Daniel Lusky. I'm not sure on that. I've heard about it a lot. I also know that it's over 900 pages long, and that will probably take me an entire month to read. So I am thinking about reading that one in November. But if you have any haunted house book suggestions that have been written in the last 30 years, definitely leave them down in the comments below. I'd love to check them out. So that is all I have to share with you today. I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. Have a happy Halloween, and until next time, take care and smile always. Bye!